10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane!
There's no need to fear.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, cause I'm black.
Hey everybody! Welcome back to Supa Black, an all-black panel podcasting experience where we talk about all things superhero, past, present, and future. From Marvel and DC to anime, there is no stone we will leave unturned as we take a deep dive into the genre of superpowered individuals and the worlds they inhabit. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Zuri Washington. I use she, her pronouns, and you can follow me on IG at Zuri with a fringe on top. That's Zuri with a Z, not Suri with an S. I'll leave it to the rest of today's Supa panel to introduce themselves. Take it away.
Hey everybody, my name is Jamal James. You can find me at the Jamal James on Instagram or Black Boy Jedi Magic on TikTok. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm so excited to get started with today.
Hi y'all, Rolls Andre here. You can find me at Rollsy at Instagram, and I am he, him, his, and I've been a comic book fan since before I could read. Here I am.
Hi everybody, Omar Washington here. You can catch me on social media on Twitter at Copyright. That's Coperyte. Yes,
This
I'm
is
here.
big, everyone.
This is big, it's real big. I was like, he's not going to get on. He's never going to get on.
Yes.
It's not gonna
We have filmed 12 episodes at this point, and this is the first time where he has said he has an Instagram. This is so exciting, or Twitter, or any kind of social media, period, end of discussion. So we're very excited about that. Anyway.
Yes. I'll be adding more too. So yes, you can catch me. That's Copyright, Coperyte. And just looking to get started, have some fun today.
Hey, good morning, everybody. You got Richard Harden here. I use the pronouns he, him, and my stuff is his. And you can find me on Instagram at Richard Harden or Facebook. And this is, I'm almost always talking about the ultimate superpower, money. We are getting deep into superheroes today.
Hey, my name is Corinne Scott, pronouns she, her, hers, and my Instagram is I am Corinne Scott. 1 R, 2 N's, and an E. Come look at photos of my dog. Her name is Nebula.
And as always, don't forget to follow us on IG at Supa Black Podcast, or you can follow the podcast on Twitter at Supa Podcast. But now that we are assembled, let's get started. So today's topic is going to be top 5 spider beings. And that is, we're going to try to figure out what the criteria of a top 5 spider being is, but obviously that can include anything from powers to cultural impact to just all around awesomeness. If they're just like really, if they have good grades at school, I don't know, anything. So I know that Rolls is a fan of Peter Porker, which I am as well. My first experience.
That's why I can't be Muslim. That's why I can't be Muslim.
Because of Peter Porker. My first introduction to any kind of thought that there might be anything other than like Peter Parker Spider-Man was 100%. The version that was not the version. It was the Simpsons movie that came out probably when I was in like middle school or high school, and Homer was singing Spider Pig does whatever Spider Pig
That's
does.
what it, yeah.
That's so
Wow.
that's like my first introduction.
So not to date myself too horribly, but in 1983, there was a comic that came out called Marvel Tales, Tails.
Perfect.
And it was like an anthology of these animal versions of the heroes. And I think DC had done that recently as well. So Marvel kind of did it, or maybe Marvel did it first. I don't know. But it was but they had the Hulk Bunny versus versus Captain America,
No.
right? And
Okay.
and Goose Rider, who is like
Wow.
I
And
didn't think
then-
it was gonna get worse than the Captain America, but continue.
Wow.
and then to
No.
top it all off, it was Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider Ham. And that was like
Yes.
that was the cover. That was the cover thing, and it was a delightful, funny, stupid read as a kid. I enjoyed it, and I've always loved that. And when they made Into the Spider-Verse and they had Peter Porker, I was like, "Oh!" I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I can't believe that they came up with this from my childhood." And it was I for me, he is my ultimate spider being.
Well, I don't know about ultimate or dating ourselves, but imagine this. Because here's the thing about Spider-Man, he's like such a core being in the Marvel universe. Like his webs connect everything up. Back in 1974, on the Electric Company, you have Morgan Freeman and Spider-Man at the same time. So it's
Oh, okay.
I love that.
so I don't know if any of you even know that the Electric Company was a child's show back then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
yes.
would come on. He had no lines, at least as far as I can recall. He appeared several times. I was always excited to see him. Never said a word.
He had speech bubbles.
Bubbles.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you would read what he was saying. Yeah.
That's fair. I did not know about that. I would be excited. It's like when that second Into the Spider-Verse comes, I would love to see more of Peter Porker's like world. That would be actually kind of cool to me. But besides like Peter Parker and Miles Morales, who I'm like, oh gosh, I could get on them all day. I don't know if y'all have heard of Silk.
Yes.
I just
So-
recently heard about
Yeah,
her.
she's the one that I'm like, I'm still waiting on her to show up because I'm like, Spider-Gwen cool, but like Silk is Korean American. She's new.
Cindy
She has
Moon, right?
yeah, Cindy Moon.
Yeah.
She's great. And I remember reading the arcs in I guess 2014, 2015 when she came out, and I was like, I want to know, I want to devour everything that this woman is doing. So
Now she's
I'm
fire,
a
but
little
she gives you that electric feel.
yeah.
Yep.
I think it's so. I was reading about Silk because not because of anything, just because of this. But I was reading about Silk, and it's fascinating to me. And I think part of why they should bring her in soon, especially he won't be able to be with MJ for some time due to events. I won't say the details of which, but he won't be able to be with MJ for some time in the context of the MCU. So I think it'd be cool if they brought Black Cat or Silk in because they have like an intense like sexual connection in the comics.
Mhm.
Well, so
that-
they do he does with Arachne as well.
with Arachne.
Yes.
Gotcha. So I just think it would be really cool to dive into, especially with all the, which this is in the trailer for No Way Home. Just as a reminder to our listeners, we have a few among us who still have not seen Spider-Man. So I can't be, I can't go into details.
But didn't you say in 2022 it's no spoilers at this point? It's like it's on you. You hadn't seen
It's
it.
still in
I
it's still in theaters. Okay, it's me,
I try to
the guilty
respect.
party.
Just
It's still in
one of
theaters,
us.
so I think that's the window.
One of us is not like the others.
If Marvel and Sony are still making money on it in theaters, I think that it's still
Yeah, they hit
spoiled territory.
1.5 billion today.
Oh, they
Oh
hit
my
1.5.
Of
Yeah.
course it did.
Yeah, I was like, that's easily. I knew it was gonna sail past $1 billion, but like, ugh.
I
There
do
we
think
go.
that movie is. I do think the movie is excellent. I'm surprised I haven't seen it a second time, but actually, I'm not surprised because Omicron.
Yep.
But like,
No,
I've
Marvel
been,
Can you
is in
imagine if
that same
Omicron
bracket.
didn't exist? Do you know how many times people would have seen the movie? Like
Three.
I'm sure there
At
are
least
plenty
three.
that have
Omicron
seen it
went like
2 or 3
this,
times.
son. Omicron went like that.
Well, since I haven't seen the movie, I would like to put another, I guess, angle on that question. How many people would have seen the movie? Question, I guess we all know the movie was going to do more than $1 billion regardless, whether it was pre-COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
But are we sure that because this is like the biggest release in a long time and people are itching to get back out there, that didn't actually aid the numbers?
I don't know if it. I'm not sure.
Just
It's,
to,
I'm
it's
gonna
I mean, just thinking about it from another angle.
It's hard to say because I've seen plenty of theater in the last 2 months, and I have not caught COVID, knock on wood, from going to see a theatrical show. I think it depends on where it is. If you are in the middle of Florida or Texas, good luck. But like, but in New York, everyone was wearing a mask. Everyone was really chill about it. We all had to be vaccinated to get in there in the first place.
Yeah.
Their kids had to be vaccinated and or have a COVID test. They had security guards out front. So I think it really depends on where you are. I'm going to say that it wasn't Spider-Man's fault. That we are currently where we are at. I think there's just a lot of dumb people doing a lot of other dumb stuff.
Well, he set the precedent, right? He's wearing a mask, and we have to.
That's what.
Yeah.
Listen,
And
follow your superheroes.
I also want to point out that because we know that the first two of the MCU with Spider-Man did not do near this much damage. They did not. And I think that there's something to be said. Like, once you saw a trailer that introduced Alfred Molina, and you saw like a Green Goblin like bomb in that first trailer, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I don't actually know, if you're talking about general audience, oh, I don't actually know what Marvel is doing at this moment in time. Now you've suddenly got people being interested from other generations of Spider-Man. They're like, oh, is this like Into the Spider-Verse, which did make buttloads of money, and people were like, oh my gosh, you can play around with all these kind of things. I think curiosity was very much a big thing for people right now, when they're like, so many people are inside and they're like, okay, if I go out, I'm going to go out because I want to see this movie. This movie at this time.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I guess I'm coming from. It's like, it's probably, I'm sure, better than the first two. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's better than the first two. And you have the multiverse thing going on, so that aids. But also because, like you said, people have been sitting home, and if they're going to go out for any movie, it would be this one. And so that's kind of what I feel. It's like a mix, right? It kind of aided it. So I'm not trying to take anything away and say it wouldn't have done as well. Just saying, I do think that a lot of people said, man, I'm going to risk COVID for this one.
Yeah. And I think that for it to do this amount of money, there has to be a lot of repeat viewers. And the thing is, for me, watching it, I was like, I would want to go back and rewatch this movie again in the theater. I would want to have this experience in the theater a second time. I have chosen not to do that unless it's like really early in the morning and I'm like getting a 10 o'clock, 10:30 like call where there's like barely anybody. Like, that's fine. That's fine for me. But like, there's something about going and watching and you're like, I feel like I need to see this in a theater.
Because
Like,
it's the experience of it's just counting to the experience of like experiencing things with other people, like
having an audience to bounce
having
off
an
of.
audience, right? Somebody to bounce off of. If one person's like, and another person's like, what the, and like, you just hear people, and you like, it just enhances the entire thing.
It does.
For
It really
you.
does.
Like,
The
watching
laughing, the crying, it changes.
Right.
It changes everything. It does.
Yeah, I will always talk about when I saw Endgame, and this kid said, "That's my son," though. When Spider-Man got snapped, he said, "That's my son," though, and he was so loud, and he was next to me, and I laughed so hard, but I had to hold it in because I was like, I understand what you're saying, but this was like a weird time for me to hear that because the conflicting emotions were a lot. But people feel so strongly about these characters, like some of these characters have shaped who people are. As a whole, and Spider-Man is like, of course, like one of the tops. If you're a poor kid, if you're a poor kid in New York City, you align with Peter Parker, no matter how white he is.
Right. Because he was poor.
Queens, man. I grew up in Queens. It was like we have our own superhero out here in Queens.
And I'm like, Brooklyn.
It's Brooklyn here too. So. But
No,
I did want to point out one thing really quick. I knew we're going. When talking about box office success, I think it says a lot that Eternals is coming out on January 12th on Disney Plus. I think it says a whole lot. That's only 67 days in theaters. That's
Mhm.
that's shy of Disney's 3 month for all their movies.
Yeah.
Disney
Really?
I
Plus.
actually haven't seen the Eternals.
It's really good.
I haven't
I
I think it
really
is.
enjoyed the
It's different.
Eternals, and I don't want to get sidetracked with talk about the Eternals, but there was so much, but not behind the scenes, but so much people who were like, I hate this movie because social justice warriors and like, and I was like, relax, everyone. Like, they were mad that there was a deaf girl. They were mad that there is a gay relationship. They were mad. Everyone was mad about something.
Yeah.
They were mad about the multicultural aspect of the movie, which wasn't even really focused on. Like,
And it did get review bombed. It did get
it
review
got
bombed on
review
Rotten
bombed
Tomatoes. Yeah.
heavily.
It
So
did?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I didn't
and
I
think it's
didn't
one of
watch.
the-
I haven't seen any reviews. I haven't read anything on it. I haven't
Yeah.
seen the movie, so I have no opinion on it right now.
Yeah.
Except,
Like-
and I only brought up that Eternals in the box office, just to compare to how well Spider-Man is doing and how long it may stay in theaters. Not to have a discussion about
No, of
Eternals,
course.
but just how long Spider-Man might actually last in theaters. So
Like
that's
Thor: The Dark World and The Incredible Hulk are better reviewed than The Eternals, and I'm like, you're.
Are you sure? Are you
No.
sure?
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Well, I think,
no, The Eternals.
well,
are
I think
beautiful
to
me, I
be
think.
to be fair to us, the Eternals is just something that even the people that were going to be critics of movies, they just don't know who that is. Like, I
Right.
think Thor and Hulk get benefit of the doubt because you at least know
You know
what to
them.
expect. There's going to be some uproarious moments in the crowd where the Eternals, just based on where they come from in the Marvel universe, the whole scope and scale of these giant beings creating these groups of beings and all the things they tie in, it's a lot to do.
Yeah.
So, but by the way, I'm thinking of this thought because I think about there's 3 times since 2019 that we've been to the theaters. All 3 of them were Marvel. So we went for Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man here. So it's like, man, it might be the only thing that could get me in a crowd of people. And it
It's
was
the
speaking
only
of
thing that's
crying.
gotten me.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did have to have
I
one of
did
those
know I had to
Atlanta
see
crowds.
Shang-Chi in theaters. I did have to see that. I was like, I'm gonna show up and show out. Like I was like, I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm gonna wear my mask. I'm gonna be vaccinated. Like I was like, I need to give my money to go to this film because I had a feeling that was gonna be great, and I
Well,
was not.
I am so happy. I'm so happy that Disney added an IMAX experience at home because I haven't been to the movie theater in a long time. So, but I'm going to see Spider-Man. I will, and I'm going to make sure it's during a matinee. But I want to make sure enough people have gone to see it. So when I do go see it, it's early. Most people have gotten it out of the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, and but yeah, Disney's added that IMAX experience at home, and I got my little setup here that makes that perfect for me. So.
We're not getting
So-
paid for this promotion, but Disney IMAX, if you would like to help us out, we would not be mad.
So I just wanted to ask in terms of spider beings,
Yeah.
why Venom and Carnage are not spider beings?
They are.
Yes.
They don't have
They're
spider
aliens.
powers.
No.
They don't have powers outside of the symbiote suit. The powers are not part of their regular human anatomy.
Right.
And
I'm
Venom
still
doesn't.
giving them, I'm
white
still
thing
giving
on
them the nod. They got spider shape. At one time,
got
one of them
spider
was shaped
shape.
like Spider-Man. I know Venom kind of comes off like the Hulk with Spider-Man's uniform on, but hell, I like that. I'm a big dude.
So if the symbiote had gotten onto the Hulk or Mr. Fantastic,
I think it did.
It has.
Yes.
Yeah,
It has?
the symbiote even. I think
sure
the
it's gotten
symbiote
on.
even. I think it even fought Galactus. I think it was on Galactus.
Listen, that symbiote is like the town
Crazy,
bicycle.
The town city bike.
And Venom recently saved the world. He became one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Eddie Brock, and he saved the world
Oh my
from
god!
the King, because he's the one who had to defeat the King in Black.
But
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
but so we don't get to count like Agent Venom, like when it was Flash Thompson.
Flash Thompson,
I mean, yeah. I mean, you can count Agent Venom, but
Agent
he's
Venom. I don't know.
Flash
that
Thompson is
character.
technically
Yeah, I'm not
dead
sure.
right now.
Oh, yeah, depends on what time in the unit. Like that's the thing. We got so many recreations and
dies.
reboots. But yeah,
No, I'm-
Flash was working for Shield and everything,
Mm.
and he was kind of kick-ass, for
Flash
how
Thompson.
how he's written so that you don't like him is like, well, you know what?
No, like I think it was like a month ago. Green Goblin totally killed Flash. I think.
I seem to also remember he got effed up like around before they had that whole Invincible Spider-Man, which was when Dr. Octopus
Yeah,
took
when
over
when he was
Spider-Man.
mind control of Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man was lost in his dimension or something, and what a waste of time.
I didn't know I didn't know Flash Thompson had any storyline beyond that Spider-Man's
Yeah,
background.
he had like an I think it was technically like Agent Venom or Anti Venom or something like, but
Yeah.
his costume was like more gray and white than black. And he was like Flash Thompson had been like a military recruiter with the Venom symbiote for that thing. But when they got disattached, like Green Goblin technically killed Flash Thompson, and so like Eddie Brock got the symbiote back at that point. But like I actually read all of Superior Spider-Man, and I actually love all of Superior Spider-Man, even though I understand
Superior Spider-Man.
No judgment. I don't. I have no.
But just getting to the end, like for me, the last 5 issues of Superior Spider-Man like made my saving grace because I was so mad that they did that like Peter's consciousness was actually outside of his body somewhere else, and it felt like it was deleted. So like Parker technically was like dead, like his brain was gone, and it was just Dr. Octopus like saying, "I'm going to take. I'm in your. This is my body now. Like this is body snatchers. Like this is mine." And he was just rolling around, killing people, taking over New York.
Wasn't like that they did it so it coincided with Spider-Man 700. And Spider-Man 700 was like 80 pages and cost like $12.99 or something. It was like I was like, word, like
Rolls, you keep talking about the cost of these comic books.
I mean,
that was my allowance. That was my weekly allowance. Son.
I guess that would make a big difference, right?
Right. But like when it was great because he explored like Octavius in a way that I had never known before. Just like because you find out that like you find out about his childhood and things like that. But like there's differences between Otto Octavius and Norman Osborn, and a lot of people be like Norman doesn't really have a lot of goodness in him. Otto does. He just kind of ignores it a lot of the time. And like that story talks about how he has been ignoring it forever and ever and ever. And then like Green Goblin comes back and he's like taking over the city. And then when Peter Parker comes back, like the story for him for Otto and Peter having their comeuppance together to stop Green Goblin is like one of the best things that Dan Slott has ever done. And it takes a lot to get there, but like it's really cool when it happens. However, it's frustrating because you really don't want Otto Octavius to take over Spider-Man. You really don't want it to happen.
Yeah. Question for the panel.
Go. I was going to say, we're much further into this episode than I thought we would be before declaring Miles Morales the winner. I just want to, on behalf of
I was gonna ask the panel. That's what I was gonna ask. I was like, how do we feel about, is Peter Parker in the top 5 of Spider Beings, period? And given that, is he in the top 2 / top 1? Because I think Miles is number 1 for me, but personally.
How do you said, is he in the top 5?
Is he in the top 5? Because I don't like. I'm just
there
asking.
is no Spider-Man without Peter Parker.
It's a question. I'm asking a question. I'm just asking because there are some people who probably don't fuck with Peter Parker at all. But like, I'm just curious what the
what's the criteria for like you said, what's the criteria, right? Because I think the same time we had our top 5 before about the other one with the weapons and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I mean it's certain things are de facto, and Peter Parker, I would imagine. I mean, look, I give you number 1, number 2 slot, sure, but Peter Parker has to be there. Yeah. And for most people, I would imagine number 1 for most people because he's number 1.
To be fair,
for that reason,
for me, Peter stresses me out, and that's why I will sometimes take him out of my top 5 because I'm just like, you stress me out so much.
For those reasons, I get it. For those reasons, I get it. But I think just being Spider-Man, like there was no Spider-Man before Peter Parker, so I think for me, he's always going to be number 1. It doesn't matter who comes or their backstory or whatever it is. He's going to be number 1 just because he was the first.
Well, I think Miles captures what was unique about Spider-Man that made him a star early on is that he's still young, like Peter Parker has grown up now. He has a job, he has a wife, he has all these things, and I think we forget what made him fresh, what made him so interesting. That he was usually the teen sidekick. Stan Lee always said the teen sidekick was always the teenager was always a sidekick, but here he's the hero, and I think that's what made Peter Parker so amazing. That and I think Miles captures that now. I love what they did with him in Spider-Verse. And I love that he was even created. I love that there's a Spider-Man for everybody, but I mean, like, yeah, Peter Parker is like, like for me, Marvel Comics, what's so amazing about them is superheroes whose superpowers are tragedies, really. Like, the Thing, the Hulk, like all these people, Spider-Man, like all these people who Cyclops, who have their powers and and I'd be like, I would love to be able to shoot beams out my eyes, but Cyclops doesn't like it. Cyclops hates that.
Not if
like all the time, like
not if you kill
talk
people
about like
as soon as you
all the
open
time. Like, you see the tragedy of being like, I want to shoot things out of my eyes, but like every time I open my eyes, I have to shoot them. Every time.
Yeah, I gotta put my glasses on. But Iron Man had that thing to wear all the time. I mean, I think that's what makes the Marvel comics so amazing, and I think Peter Parker epitomizes that. Like, that he didn't act the best origin in comics, in my opinion, the best origin in comics. If it wasn't for him, he wouldn't be a superhero. Like if he had stopped that guy from killing his uncle, he wouldn't have been a superhero. He would have been just an entertainer for the rest of his life. I think that's the best. That's the best, like, friggin' origin of all superheroes of all time.
And you did bring up something, Rose, regarding his age, right? Saying that he was a teenager, and usually the sidekicks, and it made me think about something like Spider-Man's aged so much, but everybody else is almost the same age they were, which is kind of strange to me.
Aunt May is still holding on.
It's comic books, but the fact that Peter Parker, I think, started at about 15, and he's about what, average about 32, 33 years old.
Right.
So
he's got to be about 33. Yeah, he's got to be.
So
he's
30s. Aged about 16, 17 years, maybe more than that, maybe 17, 18 years, whatever. But most of the other heroes who were about 40, 45 years old are still about the same age, maybe 5 years older. It's weird. It's just strange. Something I thought about when you said that, because thinking about the fact that he had to grow up, because you can't watch this boy be a boy forever.
The entire time. I think that's
but
the
everybody
dynamic.
else stays their middle age, and that's it.
It's like a soap opera, right?
Well, and it's keeping in mind that he gets to get rebooted a lot. Meaning, in all honesty, the character Spider-Man's 10 years older than me. So Spider-Man first came out in 1962. If you're still a teenager in 2022, something's off in the spectrum. But here's what I like about Spider-Man, and I think a point that you made, I don't think Superior Spider-Man would be as interesting if original Peter Parker wasn't compelling. Meaning, what if there was somebody that didn't have the angst of childhood or all these judgments they were trying to make about themselves and power requiring responsibility, and he was just like, you know what? It's bad. Kill him. Oh, and speaking of Peter Parker and these spiders, Scarlet Spider is a clone of Peter, right?
Yes.
So I mean, and there are several times that character's been reintroduced, and it's like every time it's like it's almost the compare and contrast that you get when you get a new spider character in there, just based on those powers. And we hadn't talked about the ladies yet either.
Yeah.
Well, there aren't
we
as
talked
many...
about Silk very briefly.
Yeah.
We got Silk, but there's also Gwen.
Yeah.
And don't forget the original Jessica Drew.
And Madam Web.
Madam Web. Does anybody remember Madam Web?
Yes.
Obviously, Rose does.
Spider-Woman and Madam Web, yeah.
Remember those. I think that the biggest thing with Marvel and why it's so interesting and why they've remained interesting in Spider-Man in particular because of this episode is because Marvel makes everyone human first.
Right.
Everyone has their own struggles and their own problems that they're going to have to deal with. And taking, like for Peter Parker, high school is a very big deal. And he's got his friends and his girlfriend. And, and I think it's also more interesting to watch someone go from 16 to 35 than it is, because there's so many life changes in those 15-ish years versus 45 to 65. Not that I'm saying like once you hit 45 it's all over. I'm just saying you're not going to go through, for most people,
as drastic
And
changes.
And
exactly.
I think that adds an
you're onto
interesting
something, Chris.
position for Spider-Man, because he's been rebooted multiple times, but it's harder to reboot him in the comics, right? Because he's already a grown man. You can't reboot Peter Parker as a boy. You can do it, but you'd have to start a lot of things over again. You have to start the whole universe over again. So
Mhm.
it's kind of strange where you can reboot anybody else's. You can change their whole background. You can reboot them, whatever, and start them off at a nice age of late 20s, early 30s, and be fine because they're just men already. But Peter Parker, you can't. So,
But isn't Archie still like 18 years old?
I don't count Archie. It's a comic book, but they're not super fun.
No. The thing is, what I really like about Peter Parker, besides the fact that, like, yes, what these three movies have done of like capitalizing on him as a high schooler, is something that I very much wanted to see, and I love that, and I think that there's something special about boyhood and transition to a man as a superhero. Like, that is something that is really exciting to see. But what I get mad about sometimes is, like, there's been like 4 or 5 Spider-Man cartoons with all of him being in high school. Like, it's in order to capture that lightning in a bottle. And there's something about the progression of a character that I appreciate. Like, there's something about knowing where Peter Parker has been as a high schooler to where he is now as a man, and how he deals with things differently, that I think is also really, really special. But you don't get it without that progression. My hope, and with no spoilers about No Way Home, like, I know that people are talking about like what happens next, and are there going to be more Spider-Man movies? I would love for Tom Holland to do 3 more. I would love for him to become like a man Spider-Man, and see what that does. I think that would be a crown jewel for me as a testament of Spider-Man storytelling, of seeing the progression here. For me, so for me, Peter has to be a part of it.
Think about this concept, because here's something that, as you were talking, Jamal, it really occurred to me. This is part of the success of Marvel over generations, is they get that generational reboot of people that are coming of age. We're teenage. I remember being a teenager, going into being a grown man, but then there's a whole nother generation that got introduced to him again in the 80s and in the 90s, and every couple of years you got a new generation of teenagers in different stories. But especially those two groups, because I think about this, it's also that for me, most of my growing up, it was between the X-Men and Spider-Man that were in that angst of who am I going to be, how am I going to be growing up. And I think that's the genius. It gives it the longevity, because here's what happened for my kids was they got introduced to Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, but dad was just as excited to run out and see the movie too. But it's got like this generational momentum of people that are like, you know what? With great power does come great responsibility. It's like it's a
Zuri,
lesson in a story that doesn't. Go ahead.
No, I think Zuri had something to say too. I can't remember.
It was just I guess for me, when it comes to spider beings as a general topic, I find, yes, I am Black, so I find Miles more compelling in certain ways. But what I also love about Miles is that he the intersectionality of his identity as both a Black boy and a Latino, self-identified Latino boy. And, you know, when they have him speak Spanish in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, or when they have him speak Spanish in the video game, or when he's talking to his mother, just the cultural is so culturally specific and steeped in the vibe of New York. And even more so than with this last iteration with Tom Holland and Peter Parker, which, you know, you saw more diverse population of Queens. But I feel, you know, because his mother is like, you know, she runs for what is she running for? Mayor, not mayor, something, maybe like a city comptroller.
No, I think she is running for mayor.
Is she running for mayor? She's running for
mayor.
Yeah, she's running for office. So they're very community oriented in a different way than Aunt May is with Feast.
Right.
She's trying to be in charge to make decisions so that things like Feast can get the funds that they need and yada yada. So I just find it so engaging, and the cultural impact and implication of that is just so much more fulfilling to me than Peter Parker. I like Peter Parker, don't get me wrong, and and the origins of his story are so important to the origins of what Miles Morales is today. But for me, it's solid, like Miles in first and Peter in second. And I also would like to throw in Spider Wolf, because I think a werewolf that is a spider being.
Now this is, I don't know anything about Spider Wolf. Talk to me about Spider Wolf. Please talk to me about Spider Wolf.
Yeah, he's barely, I think he's only in one like amazing Spider-Man comic, and then it probably dies. But it's a dude that has the spider powers, that got bit by a spider, but also is a werewolf.
Ain't that about a bitch?
So he's a werewolf. Wait, he's a werewolf first, or did the wolf get bit by a spider and can turn now?
I'm because I haven't read the comic book, I'm unclear. But from what I can tell, it says that he is a werewolf first that was bit by a spider.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
That sucks.
No pun intended. That's amazing.
So like, he's cool. He like, again, only appears in one comic. I don't even know what year. Probably like from the drawing, it looked like the early 2000s or maybe mid 2000s. But
if you would tell me, if you would just say Spider Wolf, I would think of a wolf with like 8 legs.
No, thank you.
Running around. Like that's what I would think of.
I don't want it.
Not for me.
So no love for Ben Reilly.
Species of spider that's a wolf spider, like that's a thing, isn't it?
A wolf spider.
Now it's time to get on that Geo. It's like, it's a thing.
So that's what I was when I saw the spider wolf thing. I was thinking of the wolf spider. I was like, oh, so it's like someone got bit by a wolf spider or something. Nope, it is a werewolf.
Yes, there it is, wolf spiders, and they live in Georgia, so that's why I think that's a real thing.
I mean, I want to say that I think Ben Reilly does count for this list, but I can't honestly say I know enough about Ben Reilly specifically, because I know that when Ben Reilly would show up, I would immediately get turned off. I'd be like, you're not Peter. I don't want to deal with you. You don't know anybody of these villains. I don't care. But like, Ben Reilly has been around for a long time. People really, really love Ben Reilly, who are like obsessed with Spider-Man. I love reading Spider-Man comics, but I don't follow it like religiously like I would Batman.
Ben Reilly, for those of you needing a translator, that's still a version of Scarlet Spider. So you got a Peter Parker clone that didn't have a name, that decided he was going to take Uncle Ben's name and Aunt May's name and put them together, and that's who Ben Reilly is. So Scarlet Spider's dope. Now, and he's also drawn well. Like, anytime Scarlet Spider shows up, it's a little bit of the departure from the thinner frame that you got with Peter Parker. So it's like, oh, there go Diesel Spider-Man again.
Am I wrong, or did Ben Reilly actually live Peter Parker's life for a while?
Yeah,
I believe that's
there was a time when Peter was replaced.
Yeah, he thought he was a clone.
He thought he didn't even. I don't even think the clone didn't even know he was a clone.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what happens with clones. They never know they're clones until someone's like,
"You're a clone.
You're a clone."
Then it blows up your whole life.
What was that? What was that show? The guy who Robert Kirkman, Invincible.
Mm-hmm.
They had
Oh, yeah.
those clones in there who were like, they did not. You're the clone.
You're
No,
the clone.
I
You're the
made
clone.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
You're the
Oh,
clone.
And then it's
and
like
don't-
that Spider-Man meme.
And don't forget all those Eternals that didn't know they were clones. Oh,
Spoiler. I mean,
Wait, that's not in theaters, is it?
It's come
Not
on,
in
man.
theaters.
We've just got like 3 more days, and I would have seen it.
You guys have not seen
You know, it's funny.
Invincible?
I'm not even
It's-
remember
it's-
I've
that,
seen
that
Invincible.
conversation.
But I have
saw
not
Invincible.
seen
I have not
Eternals.
seen Eternals.
It's okay. It don't.
Corinne,
It's
you're with me.
it's like kind of a spoiler, but it's more complicated than that.
Much more.
But yeah,
in,
I'm sure.
in Turtles, you could do
You said Turtles.
I did.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
you
You
can
keep
do-
stop coming up with things.
When you when you
Spider
talked
Turtles.
about when you said wolf spider versus spider wolf, I started thinking about like how like everybody's powers, if their name ends with man, it's like Iron Man, Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. So the power name comes first, or the
First.
whatever they are. And then I thought about, wouldn't it be interesting to see a human get radiated and then bite a spider?
Wow.
Like what would happen?
Wow.
Like what would happen? Like imagine, like I would love to see somebody draw that that character.
Gross.
What that
Like, what
spider
do you
would
call
turn
it?
into.
Spider
Of course, the
radiator?
picture that comes to my mind is Jeff.
He'd have to go to
Goldblum
work.
as
He'd probably
It'd
get
be
a
man-
job.
It'd be man spider, like man bear pig from South Park.
Man,
Yeah,
He's half man and half bear pig.
he'd have to get a job, have some kids,
Have a good
carry
job.
carry a briefcase.
Too many kids to take care of.
He's got 1,000 kids.
Got to pay these
Yeah,
bills.
Okay.
You can tell it's
so-
already messing up the
Can someone
rhyme to the
explain
song.
something
though.
to me?
Man, spider, man,
Wait, what are we
spider,
explaining?
does
Sorry,
whatever a
explain
man
something to
can.
me.
Yeah.
Like
Or try.
Venom, we've already said that Venom does not count as part
Right.
of the
Right.
spider beak, right?
I don't know that I agree.
Have we brought up Spider
We can
Gwen
do
yet?
that.
I mean,
We haven't talked about her.
Okay, so
But-
like, I feel like because we only have 2 people on this list right now. We have Peter Parker and Miles Morales.
I think Spider Gwen gets in, and Bill and Ben. I let Scarlet Spider in every time
Scarlet
we
Spider.
mention him.
Skylar Spider.
Ben Riley can get in. Spider Gwen and Jessica Drew. Don't forget
I
original.
know
Spider.
about 4. I know about 4 or
Drew,
5
yes.
spider beings, so I'll say all of them get in.
All of
That's
them get in.
I'll be very honest. The extent of my spider knowledge is like the 3 that I looked up before this episode and Into the Spider-Verse. I really like the one with the robotic one. Who's that one? That
Oh,
looks like
Iron
Baymax.
Spider.
Yeah,
Mm.
I like that one.
Iron Spider with Death Mode should be in there, even though that's still officially that's Peter Parker though, just with armor.
Jamal,
And I did
Jamal had a
read Spider
question.
Noir.
Jamal was going to ask a question about Venom. I was curious what he
No,
said.
it's just because like I watched those movies and you know, like without Spider-Man, it's really weird when he's like swinging around, being like, "Ooh, I got these spider things coming up my like," you know, it's really weird. But like, did Venom come out with a spider symbol on his chest in white, based on his?
And
Is
I
that-
mean, at least
He
initially
has
when they
that
introduced
in
him in the
Lego
comic book.
Marvel superheroes.
The symbiote bonded with Spider-Man, had the strongest connection with Peter Parker.
Mhm.
So when the symbiote broke, when the symbiote and Peter Parker split, the symbiote basically went in merging with Eddie Brock, kind of took its experience and
Mhm.
gave that, because it never had to mimic spider powers, right? It's a symbiote. It didn't have to
Right.
mimic spider powers. So
but did it take any
did.
DNA?
I don't
Mm.
know. I don't know if it took
Like a
DNA.
communicable. Yeah,
I don't know if
maybe.
because then if that's the case, then we could say that some of that DNA is left in the hosts as well, right? So I don't know.
Mhm.
But I would. It's funny what you're doing there. But that's an interesting question. But I do think that the symbiote kind of having a mind of its own, really that strong impression from Spider-Man, from Peter Parker, made it mimic, and all of its offspring mimic spider powers, right? Because all of them mimic like Spider-Man's look to a degree, and the symbiote never had to be that, because when Spider-Man got that, he got it in Secret Wars 2, and from the battle world, right?
Right.
And he got the symbiote from then, and it was nothing. It was just a black glob of anything, so it never had to look like
Black
Spider-Man
goo, yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So I think that connection is what spawned all the symbiotes to mimic and look like Spider-Man.
Right.
Because I was like, I know that he doesn't like it gives increased strength and aggression, but I was like, wasn't sure that when it leaves the host, it takes something from you. So that's where I was like making sure that it doesn't, if Venom doesn't stick on that list, it's because it can't take any of Peter Parker's DNA or spider powers or nothing.
Well, isn't how like the people who got the symbiote later knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man because it was part of the
collective consciousness.
Yeah.
I don't think they all knew it inherently. They may have known later. I think like I don't know if Cletus Cassidy knew right away. I don't know if he knew right away. But I think and just.
But is that partially because
Carnage
Carnage is like Venom's child. So as opposed to like Venom itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Carnage is the offspring of Venom.
Right.
And yeah. So.
I didn't mean to stump this list. It was on my brain. I was just
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think Scarlet Spider belongs on there. I think Spider-Gwen. But I don't know. Spider-Gwen. I also like Silk Story.
I do like Silk.
But Spider-Gwen fights on fucking.
So who's the top three? Can we establish the top three?
Sure.
And then move on to the, like 5 because I think it's easier to do that, right? No.
Yeah.
Well, coming in at number 1. No.
I mean, I'm willing to concede Peter Parker being number 1, but I my heart goes out to Miles more. So that's
also on his heels at number 2 is Miles.
Also, with Peter Parker, it's like in my brain, I associate Peter Parker with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. So of the 3, which is, I mean, I forgot. I went back in anticipation of No Way Home. I went back and watched the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Well, just the first one because I didn't see the second one with Jamie Foxx. But I watched them and I forgot how much I loved Andrew Garfield.
I love Andrew Garfield. I've always loved Andrew Garfield.
I forgot, and I was like, he's just
Andrew
this
Garfield was
sweet,
great.
like quirky guy versus Tobey Maguire, who, I mean, looking back, I'm like, it was exciting.
Those movies were very different. The Amazing Spider-Man. They were focused. They were filmed different. You can look at the quality of the film. They were more focused on acting. They had Sally Field. They had Dustin Hoffman, right? No,
playing
was
who?
it?
No,
was Dustin Hoffman not in it? Okay,
who was Uncle Ben?
I was wrong. I don't know. I thought
Cliff Robertson. Cliff Robertson was the
Cliff Robertson.
No,
in the Tobey Maguire ones.
No.
Yeah.
I'll be talking about the
Martin
Andrew
Sheen.
Garfield movies.
Oh.
Martin Sheen. I don't know why I said that.
Oh yeah, it was Martin
Sheen.
Yes,
So
yes.
they were focused on performances. They
Yeah.
were really focused on dramatic performances.
Yeah.
At least the first one was. The second one got a little bit away, but yeah. I think Andrew Garfield was. I think to me, he was the best Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker.
I'll agree with that.
Interesting.
Tobey
That is
Maguire can take a
excellent.
seat.
I think Toby was like fine. Toby was fine. I have
No, he was fine.
He
Yo.
was fine.
He was fine.
Y'all, I don't know how old y'all was when that first Spider-Man came out, but Tobey Maguire
I was 11 and I
Tobey
loved
Maguire
Tobey
was a
Maguire.
mother. I was like,
I was in my
That's because it
20s.
was the first time.
Exactly.
You
20
have
years
to,
ago, so,
just
yes.
because it was the first time doesn't mean it was the best time.
Here.
And like,
Well, you have to. Well, see, if I go, that's what. Wow, yeah, that's true in so many ways for so many people. But but yeah, I guess when I think about it, right, if I go based on nostalgia, then yeah, I would have to say the first Spider-Man movie was the best because I thought it was the best of the three. I know that's not a popular opinion because people will say Spider-Man 2. But
Me
because
too.
I think Willem Dafoe, I love Alfred Molina,
Ugh.
but Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, plus his name is Dafoe and he was the enemy. It was amazing to me.
That was on purpose.
It was amazing to me, and so if I go based on and they made it like the comic book, the transition from scene to scene, him
Yeah.
laughing and ha ha in the background, it was perfect for me. But in looking at the performances, if I think about the characters, Tobey Maguire, he annoyed me. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way his mouth moves when he talks. So
I'm
he
gonna
annoyed
point this out. I'm gonna point this out because I get you, Omar. I feel like you have a problem with Tobey Maguire, the way he sounds as a person. And I think you gotta look at that. But I want to talk about I want to talk about like what I just want to point this out. I think what Tobey Maguire did with that first movie is that he conquered that script, and I think he was as old school Peter Parker as possible. So that's why I'm like, I get that old school Peter Parker. I think his Spider-Man was lacking, and I only say that lacking as an adult of like having more research and like reading more comics. I like his Spider-Man to me was lacking. While with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I think his Spider-Man was on point. While I didn't necessarily like his choices as Peter Parker, but that's all screenwriting. That's all just a script. With Tom Holland, I think Tom Holland has found like the perfect balance between Peter and Spider-Man, but from a modern day context. It is a new iteration that is not necessarily what the comics are going for because Peter is now an adult. But like it's like if you were to take what is essentially Peter Parker and what is essentially Spider-Man and put him into our world today, Tom Holland embodies that as much as possible. I think all three of them have given something that is just.
So then my question
Then
still
does that
is,
end up being
I
contested?
agree that all three were good. All three are good. But go ahead. I
so
think
my
Richard
question
disagree.
still is where is are we saying Peter Parker first, period, just to
We're saying Peter
agree?
Parker, and so that we don't have to but box out other characters by ranking the three people that have been Peter Parker in movies. We just put all of y'all together. All three of y'all can be number one.
We're talking
So
about
Peter-
Peter Parker
so
as
Peter-
a fundamental character from like canon wise.
I think he
generally
has to be
speaking.
first. I
So
do.
Peter Parker.
But
I would put him
again,
number
just
one.
because he came first doesn't
Miles
mean
Morales.
he's the best.
Aha!
It came back. That's how
Wait a
I
minute,
feel.
wait a minute, Corinne. I hear you.
But Peter Parker, Miles Morales, who would be
Miles.
third? I might say it's between Spider-Gwen or Scarlet for me.
It's
I
right
mean,
there.
for me, I like
But
Spider-Gwen.
matter of
I
fact-
mean, the way she was fleshed out in Into the Spider-Verse brought me so much joy. And it's the first time we got to see female spider being
In
Mhm.
popular culture.
on the
Yeah.
big in popular culture on the big screen.
Mhm.
And I mean, Spider-Man has been on the big screen for 20 years. So
Yeah.
that's where
I think
at.
Spider-Gwen is. I think that's a
I'm
good.
going for Gwen. It goes. It fits.
Yeah, Gwen.
So
I think
then-
Gwen number 3 is fine for me.
Spider-Gwen.
I
else?
really and Spider Scarlet's really cool based off of what Rich has been saying. So I would go for that for number 4, but I'm having a hard time figuring out number 5. I will still say Spider Wolf just because I just think a werewolf spider.
Roll say, "Hey there, bitch."
What was
I think it's between Jessica
Can
Drew
can you please tell me what his powers were?
I have to look him up again, but let me
I'm
try to
so
find
curious
it.
about these powers. And did he howl while swinging? And did they show the full moon in the background?
Yeah, when it was
and
when it was
and
like
what
when it was
happened?
like a when it wasn't the full moon, that motherfucker was like,
Honestly,
well,
it
I
makes me
guess
think
I
of
ain't
like
doing shit.
American Werewolf, like the
Yeah.
movie from the 1980s. That's all I can
Like-
think of.
Michael
Like
J.
when
Fox,
when
or
and
no,
when
it's
there
the
was
other
no
one.
full moon, when he was still out
would just,
like
like,
swinging
do
and
some-
the moon went away and the sun was coming up, did he lose the wolf powers and still have the spider powers?
Interesting.
Like what? Like
Of course,
I'm
you still have the spider powers.
So from what I can find, which is not much, it says not much. No one knows very much about the character's origins, but his powers are essentially the same as Spider-Man from Earth 616, and so only added with the ability to transform into a werewolf. So he has more strength and agility and like I would assume that it's not the organic spider web stuff.
Right.
So that he would have to someone would have to give him that ability, but I think it just gives him a lot more agility. He could probably climb on walls and stuff.
Because he's wolf sense and spider sense. That's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Wolf sense.
I'm also gonna throw out Spider-Man 2099 because he's voiced by Oscar Isaac, and
Imagine that character fighting Wolverine.
I do. Yeah, I did like Spider-Man.
Wow, that'd be fresh.
So
And he's got fangs and talons.
So we definitely agree on the top 4. Who's number 5? So I've heard an edition of Spider-Man 2029.
2099.
Sorry, 20. What did I say?
Yes.
2029.
Great.
2099. It's 2099.
That's only in 7 years.
I go with Miguel. Yeah.
Did we get Jessica Drew? Did we get Jessica Drew in there?
Yeah, it's either
right.
Jessica
The
Drew.
original Spider-Woman. Yeah.
Spider-Woman.
So Jessica Drew. So okay, I will drop the Spider Wolf. I just like talking about him.
I know, right? The
So
possibilities.
Jessica Drew or Miguel was the other one for 2099.
2099. Yeah. I go with
especially
Miguel.
once you get Jessica Drew to grow up and be grown and marry Luke Cage, it's like.
Spider-Woman. I gotta go with Spider-Woman for myself. Spider-Woman.
I'll go for that.
So did Miguel O'Hara make it? I mean, Spider-Man 2099. Now it sounds like we have 6.
Not unless unless we take away the only one I can think about taking away would be Scarlet to replace Scarlet Spider. Sorry, Scarlet Spider. To replace with Miguel. But other than that, we have a top 5.
I'll take it.
Scarlet Spider, and then we're going with Jessica Drew,
Spider.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
that's
we end up with our contested top 5, waiting for the fans to vote.
We
gotta ask the people. It's like, what do you did we miss anybody?
What did we get wrong?
I'm sure
All
we
of
missed
it.
so many. Please let
Somebody's
us know
out there like, how did y'all miss Madam Web?
Listen, we didn't miss them. There's so many.
Madam
Y'all
Web.
tell us what your top 5 are, and we'll.
Madam Web just sits there. She don't count. She just sits and spouts wisdom.
But she saw that coming. She saw it coming.
She operates behind the scenes. She prefer not to be in the top 5.
Yeah. But please comment on IG and let us know who your top 5 spider beings are. Come yell at us. I invite the yelling. Please come. I eat it for breakfast. It's yummy. Don't forget to follow us on IG at Supa Black Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Supa Podcast. And I will let the panel introduce themselves on the way out.
Rolls Andre. Hi, you can find me at Rosie on Instagram. And comic book nerd, lifetime loser. So
Rich.
All right, you got Richard Harden signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. You can find me on Instagram at Richard Harden. And I'm also realizing that we forgot to put Peter Porker in the list.
He's fine. I love him, but he didn't count.
He's fine.
Special mention.
Special mention.
Holiday special only.
We're keeping kosher.
I think you said my name, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, Corinne Scott. You can find me on Instagram at I am Corinne Scott, 1 R, 2 N's, and an E. Come look at pictures of my dog, who is very antsy right now, by the way. That's what this is. She's right here.
Omar Washington, he, him. You can find me on Twitter at Copyright, and that's COPERYTE. And see you there.
And hello and goodbye. My name is Jamal James. You can find me at the Jamal James on Instagram or Black Boy Jedi Magic on TikTok. And I am happy Peter Porker is not on this list.
And as always, like I said, my name is Zuri. And remember, should you need heroes, we've got your back. We fear no topic we attack. If conversation is what you lack, you'll find it here with Supa Black. Bye.